Southeastern Taiwan already starting to feel the impacts from Typhoon Podul. It has re-intensified up to typhoon status as expected, and that right front quadrant coming on shore there just around Taitung, but even further towards the north around Hualien there along the east coast, and even stretching back towards, dare I say, towards Taipei, seeing some of those outer rain bands kind of wrap around. But the big thing right now is that inner core. That's where some of the more possibly destructive winds are going to be, but also the heavy rainfall as this comes on shore, and you can see how it just slams into the mountains here across central portions of the island. That's why on the west coast you don't really have much rain to speak of, and this is going to be the case throughout the duration of this storm over the course of the next 24 hours. And you can even see that here on our satellite imagery. This wraps around and kind of gets stopped right there by that wall with your inner circulation right in there, Taitung being right about in there. In fact, let's zoom right in. You kind of see where that right front quadrant is going to be coming on shore. I know we got a couple storm chasers out specifically in that city, but here's the deal. Yeah, that might be the right front quadrant. Quite often the winds spread out, and the storm actually may, instead of coming on shore there, may just make a little jog just like that. That's what I would anticipate, because that low level center can't quite crack through the mountains of central Taiwan here. But yeah, there's a look at where you're probably going to be seeing at least gale force conditions as this moves overhead over the course of the next, well, about 12 hours. I mean, this is really starting to near landfall at this time. So if you haven't made those preparations ahead of it, starting to get a little bit too late now. But let's talk about where we're still anticipating some of the worst of the impacts. And like I said, taking a look at the forecast, well, JMA, JTWC, CWB, they all expect this to move right over the island. But I'm just telling you, time and time again, the tracks have this tendency to do this little wobble around the mountains there. So it makes it a little bit difficult to predict. But one thing that always happens, I can also tell you, is that the mountains usually weaken this out. So this is going to come on shore as a typhoon there in the southeastern Taiwan. But by the time it makes it over there towards southeastern China, heading into Fujian province, it's probably going to be just kind of a more of a tropical storm. And we need to see that here on our guidance with the ECMWF as we go ahead through Wednesday afternoon into the evening. A much weaker storm, since the right half of it basically just gets ripped apart by the higher elevation of central Taiwan and then moves on shore. Hong Kong, man, you got some record-breaking rainfall last week. You don't need any more. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get record here, but you are going to get a lot of that southerly flow kind of wrapping into our storm as it heads off towards the west. And here's a much closer view and a very good example of what I'm talking about when I mention, you know, the mountains really just stopping any flow from running over that. You can see in the right front quadrant here through our Wednesday morning, look at that all just piling up. Then as it goes over the mountains, the flow switches in from the southwest, and that brings some heavy rainfall across the southwestern. Think of Typhoon Kongray from last year. Remember how that just brought a tremendous amount of rain on the east coast, then swept in from the southwest. Very similar setup. That was in late October of last year. And then this moves on shore across southeastern China, of course, there in the Fujian province, and heading inland, and you start to see some improving conditions, at least behind it. But how about those rain totals? That's the big question. Well, even far away from that low-level center across the northeastern portions of Taiwan, 50 to 200 millimeters is possible, but I do believe, as I always say, this little swath there in the mountains, 500 to 1,000 in some of those remote spots. Thankfully, no one lives up there. There's not really even any roads. If you want to go from point A to point B around Taiwan, you have to go all the way around the island. And then a lot of times these roads out here in the northeastern portion are very rural. It's a national park there. Get washed out in storms like this. So that's usually one of the biggest issues. But Taitung definitely going to be looking at kind of the right front quadrant coming on shore. Hey, at the broader picture, I do want to remind you of this big trough I anticipate to set up. Maybe a little bit of a monsoonal low by the weekend off of the west coast of the Philippines, and even a troughing off the east coast. You see that low right in there trying to spin up and drifts towards the north. That definitely could increase showers by next weekend for the west coast of the Philippines. That and my next update after we're done with this typhoon is definitely where my attention is going to significantly shift over towards. That's just looking ahead at that extended long-range outlook. For now, though, let's continue to monitor the topic at hand, which of course is our typhoon, and then we'll start to monitor what we could see here with that enhanced southwesterly monsoonal flow, kind of getting wrapped up with a monsoonal gyre attached to this kind of this big trough setting up over the Philippines, which 9 out of 10 times equals an increase in rainfall here across the Philippines in that extended forecast. In fact, let me try to see, do I have a rainfall graphic ready to go there? Not quite yet. Anyways, I'll show it to you tomorrow. Right now, just know that the West Coast is going to see increase. Anything in the long term is just going to be kind of up for debate anyways, and we'll be changing. Anyways, here on Thursday, I mean, we're maybe not into that trough yet, or at least a monsoonal gyre yet, but we do have that trough, I should say, is set up. The gyre's not set up. What does that mean, Robert? That sounds like mumble jumble. Sometimes I get away from my meteorological self here, start talking in these weather words. The point is, it's an increase in showers Thursday, Friday, Saturday across the Philippines due to that instability. Not going to be a washout, but definitely afternoon showers and thunderstorms will be setting up. So that's the number one thing you need to be monitoring over the next few days. Oh, here we go. I do have a rainfall outlook. Here we go. Let's look at our 5-day rainfall totals, basically from Mindanao over towards Visayas. Yeah, you can see here these areas in green indicating 50 to 100 millimeters. So like I said, not a washout, but definitely over the weekend an increase in those afternoon showers. All right. As always, I am meteorologist Robert Speta. If you're new to this channel, hit that comment section. I'll really appreciate that. But also, check out the subscribe button. That goes a long way. My goal is to get up to 100,000 subscribers. When we get up to 99,000, I'm going to start a live stream, and we're going to have some gifts and giveaways because we've been doing this for so long, and it helps out with the algorithms. But if you really want to help out, check out our Patreon. Link is down below. Big shout out to all our Patreon members and our YouTube members who support this channel. I can't stress enough how you make it possible for me to continue to do this on a daily basis. And also not to just make like financially, but also I'm exhausted. I got multiple jobs and everything. And one reason I haven't stopped is because there's just so much support for the channel. And there's so many people have been donating for a long time that I feel almost obligated to continue to do this, which I'm happy to. And this is my area of expertise. I'm going to write a book here soon, which I have been planning for some time. So look forward to that. I say I'm planning on doing it and I haven't started, so that means it'll probably be like 10 years from now, but you know, we'll see one day. Anyways, if you're out here in Taiwan ahead of this storm, let me know in the comment section where you're at and how things are going there for you. And I hope you stay safe out there. Taipei probably going to miss out on the worst of this, by the way. I want to stress that. I don't think I've said that. It is really the East Coast that's getting impacted. So as always, though, thanks for watching. And of course, stay safe out there, friends.